So we're going to start this dish with lamb. The lamb I would suggest you buy is a cut that's difficult, tough, chewy, cheap, however you want to say it. We're going to do lamb shoulder or lamb chuck, and that's what we have here. You're probably going to start with about a 3-pound piece. This is a little smaller. But the theory is you're going to start with a piece of meat that needs to be tenderized. And by braising it in a liquid, which is what a stew is, you get a chance to slowly break down the collagen and the protein and the fiber of the muscle, and that's where all the flavor comes, and it tenderizes the meat. And that's exactly what we're looking to do. So we're going to start by just dicing up some of this lamb. And what we did on the outside is we skimmed off a little bit of the fat. There's some fat through it, but that's good. All that's going to be good for flavor. So we're just going to dice this up a little bit. And again, you don't want to spend a lot of money on this. This is not a fine cut. This is going to be one of those cuts that are going to be tough. And see, like here, see what we have? This piece right here? Okay, we got a little fat now. I'm going to get rid of that. But other than that, we're pretty much good to go. So I think the tougher cuts got a lot more flavor to them. They got a lot more fat. See here? A little fat inside that. That's all good. That's all good. That's all going to add some flavor to our stew. Again, the problem is, though, that these cuts, they're normally, because they're parts of the animal that are used more often, they get to be very tough. So what we're going to do is start our pan with some oil. Got some nice high heat on. We're going to take these chunks of lamb. If you wanted to, some of the older recipes will call for you to dredge these in flour and then put them in the pan. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. The flour is going to help this all reduce and come together and form a really good sauce. I'd much rather do it this way. We're going to taste just the lamb, get all that browned up, let that go. And what I have here is some chicken stock. Now, if you got water at home, water would be fine. What we'll do is we'll just brown this up a little bit. Here we go. Let these guys kind of, we get them all browned up a little. Okay. That's good. And see some of these bits and pieces that are sticking. Matt, can you get that camera in here? See these bits and pieces that are sticking? That's okay, because what we're going to do is we're going to deglaze a little later on. What I mean is we're going to add some cold liquid. The cold liquid is going to change the whole temp of the pan, and it's going to allow these, see right now they don't really scrape up that easily. You got to really kind of press. We're going to add some cold liquid and then scrape all those bits and pieces up. So we get this pretty much browned, and then we're going to cover the whole thing with our water or our stock. Okay, then we'll come back and we'll scrape up the bottom. And that's going to get all those pieces of lamb, all those little bits and scraps of flavor into our stock. Okay, so what we do is we're going to let this now simmer. We're going to let bring it to a boil, lower it to a simmer, and see now we're starting to get a little fat across the top. What you do is you come in there. We're going to let this go for about 30 minutes. What you do is you'll come in and just use your ladle and skim off some of the fat every now and then. Okay, so when you do, after 30 minutes, what you get is what we have right here. We've got the liquid now. We skim some of the fat off, some of the liquid cooked down. The meat's starting to get cooked through. It's starting to get a little tender. And to this now, we want to just take a potato. And I washed the potato, but I'm not taking the skin off because I want to just put it in there just like this. So we're going to do, start with a flat surface, come back, and then we're just going to do some diced potato. We'll do some bite-sized pieces, I think. Here we go. So the potato now, we've cooked the lamb with the stock for about 30 minutes. We're going to come back and work some potato in there now. If you wanted to, you can think about seasoning that broth now with a little bit of salt and pepper. You've picked up some of the lamb flavor, so it's really starting to come together. Some potatoes here. Again, the potato's going to kind of, some of it, you know, depending on how large you cut it a little smaller, some of it can kind of break up, and that's actually going to help thicken our stew too. So I'm going to add some more. And I'm doing a pretty small cut. Some of it's going to break up, some of it's going to stay right on your spoon or your fork for bite-sized pieces. Okay, so we get this in. So far, we've let it go for 30 minutes. That's what we had here. We had our potatoes. We're going to let it go covered for another 25 or 30 minutes. At that point, then, we're going to add some pearl onions. And then we're going to add some other ingredients. What we have is we've got some fresh thyme. We're going to add the thyme right in there. We've got some rosemary, and I leave it right on the stem so we can pull the whole thing out, the whole stem out. And then I've got some green onion or scallion, and I'm just going to do a rough chop. That's not the right knife. I want to use this knife. Take the ends off. Then we're just going to do a rough chop for some flavor. White and green parts, use the whole thing. There we go. Okay, so we get this in now. We're going to let that continue to go. Now already you can smell the herbs. The herbs are really just starting to perfume the kitchen. We're going to take a little bit of carrot. I'll just take some of the peels off. A little bit of the skin. The nice thing about this is too is it's another one of those dishes where, you know, warm weather days, if you like lamb especially, the cut that we're using here is very, very flavorful. It's just tough. So if you apply heat and cook it this way, you're going to be able to tenderize it and really get a lot of great lamb flavor out of that. Now the one thing I know is lamb's not for everybody. Not everybody likes it. That's okay. But I think if you do it in a dish like this with all these other flavors, it's really not gamey. You know, it's just got a really nice flavor to it without being gamey. Right down the center. Then we'll come back and we'll just cut ourselves some half moons. Now, we've let this go for about an hour so far. A half hour with the stock and the lamb, another half hour with the potatoes. Then we're going to add to this our herbs. We added the pearl onions. We're going to add our carrots. And we're going to let this continue to simmer now. It's going to, you know, boil, then lower it to a simmer for a little bit. We're going to put the lid back on it. We're going to let it go for about another 30 minutes. And already, I mean, these herbs, they're just perfuming the whole kitchen. Really, really awesome. And rosemary is not normally what you think of with lamb. You normally think of mint, but, you know, that's such an easy go-to. I thought this would be a little different, and it's really going to be a lot of flavor. So after another 30 minutes, I've got some white beans here. Some great northern beans. If you buy them, you want to buy fresh, that's great. Soak them in water and cook them. You want to buy them in the can, that's also pretty cool. Beans are not going to be, I mean, obviously fresh is always better. It's not going to be a tremendous difference. I think the key to that is if you buy them in the can, save that liquid, that water that's in, because it gets really thick and syrupy and a lot of really intense bean flavor. So after that last 30 minutes, you'd stir in now the beans, and what we have when we're all done is what we have right there. We've got the beans in there. So to finish this now, what we're going to do is we're going to add just a little bit of butter. Okay, that's going to add a little creaminess and just another note of flavor. And I'm also going to stir in just a little bit of heavy cream. And again, just a little bit kind of brings this all together, so that's good. Stir all that up. And what we got now is we've got this really nice, the stew came all together. As you can see in here, we've got the lamb that's nice and tender. We've got the pearl onions in the potato. So here's the potato. See that? Like fork tender, see? They crunch nice. We've got carrots cooked. We've got the onions. Look at that, nice and soft. A little bit of cream just kind of adds almost like a shepherd's pie type of approach. Let that butter just kind of melt in there. And now we're pretty much ready to go. Let that all cook down, melt together. All we have to do now is clear a little space on our counter here. And to serve this, you can do this with some really good crusty bread. This is just one of those awesome cold weather dishes. Grab a ladle. What we'll do is we'll take a little bit right here. So we've got in this now, we've got some of that sauce, which is the stock, a little bit of the cream, a little bit of the butter. Look at that, really nice. Grab some of the carrots, some of the potatoes with the skin on them. I'm telling you, a really simple to do lamb stew. It's got some really great flavor. We used inexpensive cut. We added some vegetables to it. It's got some really great flavor of the herbs.